Right now, as Kaylee said, Mike Baudendistal, our intermodal expert, CPG Man of the Year, or something like that. Michael, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, good. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being on. Always interesting. Let's jump into it, my friend. What's going on with the railroads? So there's been some recommendation, I guess, or you get into it. The Presidential Emergency Board, they're recommending or binding. What did they say, and what is this piece of information?
Yeah, so this is the Presidential Emergency Board. So this is the group of three individuals that President Biden appointed to try to reconcile the differences between the unions and the railroads, hopefully averting a strike, which could potentially happen on September 16th. So yesterday, they published this 124-page report. And sort of the first thing here is that the wages, they struck it right down the middle, where the carriers wanted a 17% compounded wage increase over the 5 years. The unions wanted 31%, and they recommended 24%. So it was almost like, did we really need a 124-page report to take an average of two numbers? But a little bit more to it than that. I mean, the carriers, it was a little bit more on the carrier side in the early years, a little bit more on the union side in the later years. It seems like the total rate of change for wages seems like it's going from maybe 3 to 4% to more to 4 to 5%, which helps the unions a little bit. They recommended annual bonuses of $1,000 for during a 5-year period. The rails wanted one bonus of $1,000, and then on the benefits side, it looked like on balance, the recommendations were more in the carrier's favor, where the unions wanted a cap on how much the union members could contribute to or wanted that cap to continue on how much the union members could contribute to their benefits, sort of capping that at 15%, keeping that cap in place. And so, on balance, I think the railroads and, the group representing the carriers were the ones that maybe were a little bit happier with these, set of recommendations. I mean, they did have, there was a statement by the AAR, statement by the group doing the negotiating for the carriers, made statements to the effect of, these are big wage increases, the biggest in 40 years, but it's a reasonable sort of basis to, get a deal done. The unions haven't said anything. I read one analyst report this morning that said the silence from the unions yesterday was deafening. I think that was right. So they could be in for maybe dragging this out to the 11th hour, or maybe having a strike that goes that has to go to Congress.
Mike, do you think that some of that silence from the unions has anything to do with the fact that a Democratic administration, and therefore you would assume that a Democratic Presidential Emergency Board, would historically lean a little bit more towards pro-labor, pro-union side of things? And do you think that they're kind of shocked that it almost comes out to favor the carrier a little bit more?
Yeah, I think they're a little disappointed, in that, like you said, I mean, if you think that the Democrats tend to favor unions, I mean, I think maybe with the carriers, the fact that they had wage increases in place, if the carriers were really aggressive and said we want, 2%, no more than 2% wage increases, maybe it would have been, really weighted towards the unions. But it seems like a reasonable middle ground that this Presidential Emergency Board is trying to strike. I mean, I think the whole system is designed to prevent a work stoppage, which hopefully is what happens.
Yeah, and in negotiations, sometimes he who talks first loses, right? So sometimes you just got to sit there and hold it close to the vest, right? And you got election season coming up, and you got all that other kind of stuff there. So there's a lot of things at play. I think it's smart to kind of hold it close to the vest, in my opinion. But was there anything else inside there? Because it wasn't just wages that are the issue here. There's a number of people per, or what was it? Is the crew per train, right? Length of train, automation, that type of stuff. Did the board do anything in this 124 pages except try to explain why they just broke it straight down the middle?
Yeah, that was another important point I didn't mention earlier, is they basically said that these, work rules, like the number of, men on a train, that's outside their purview per the Railway Labor Act. So they basically just said it's outside of our jurisdiction. We're making recommendations on wages and benefits and things like time off and some of those things. But those big questions, they say those precedents shows that those have to be negotiated at the local level per the Railway Labor Act, and there wasn't any sort of conclusion there. So it's a good question, and that's one thing that the sides are just really far apart on is some of those work rules.
So obviously this is just recommendation coming down from the Presidential Emergency Board, but what does this mean for the action that has to be taken? Is it just now kind of loose recommendation and they don't have to do anything about it? Or during negotiations, do they have to kind of follow that line from this emergency board, or else there'll be consequences?
They don't have to follow it. It's non-binding. And so they might follow it, they might not follow it. They might do something different. I think what it does is if there is a strike or lockout, strike seems more likely in September, then Congress in all likelihood is going to order the rail workers back to work in short order, and they need some document to go by, and this will likely be the document. They say, well, we have all these recommendations. This is what it's going to be. So that's probably why this is important.
So Michael, just to be very, very clear about what you just said, you didn't say that a strike is likely. You just said a strike is more likely than a lockout would be likely, right? That was the statement.
I think so.
I don't want people to take that out of context. I don't want anybody to take that out of context and think that Baudendistal said a strike is likely. Right? So let me ask you this though, with the to your point on about the wages, right? Why it wasn't more skewed towards labor, et cetera, and the fact that in this they said that basically the Presidential Emergency Board, in my opinion, said, hey, we're going to explain to you why it's not our job to do our job, and not say anything about the people on the train and the automation, which is a huge issue, right? Is this part of their plan here to kind of skew this towards the carrier side and give them some negotiating room and maybe give up some of those wages in order to get some concessions on the number of people on the train and the other issues that they're pretty far apart on?
The Presidential Emergency Board, I think the main goal is to sort of prevent a strike. I mean, I think that's sort of the main goal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think from the carrier's perspective, ultimately they would like to have, I think, reduce labor force, but sort of history shows they've been able to cut a lot of workers over the years, maybe within the guidelines of some of those work rules. I mean, the work rules would really cut it to a lower level, but I think for now they're probably happy with the recommendations that were put out yesterday.
Yeah, but let me just to be clear, what I'm asking you is this: do you think it gives the railroad side of it a little bit of negotiating room, and it was offered to them by the emergency board, saying, "Hey, here's some wiggle room to negotiate to get some of the other things that you need," because they recognize that automation in the railroads is needed for our infrastructure. Do you think that's part of the plan there, or no?
I don't know that that's part of the plan. I mean, it's an interesting theory. I mean, they could say, well, these recommendations are going to be for a 24% increase over this 5-year period.
Yeah.
We'll go to 28% in exchange for these changes in work rules. I mean, that is possible. I don't know that is what they're thinking, though.
Gotcha.
It's going to be an interesting thing to watch for sure, how it plays out over the next month or so. Mike, thank you for joining us this morning. Great to have you as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, good to see you.